So we're making this mask pattern. It is the medium size women's. You can find this pattern at stitchworks.net, and I printed it off. It's a full-size printable PDF pattern, so just all you have to do is print it and cut it. So I cut it out, and on the pattern it tells you what you need. Cut 2 of the outer fabric, cut 2 of the non-woven interfacing, and cut 2 of your lining fabric. So this is going to be my outer fabric. This is going to be my lining fabric. And this is my non-woven interfacing Pellon. It's lightweight. This is the side that's glued on, and then this is the plain side. It comes with instructions too. So also on this pattern, it says you need 16 inches of elastic. So I have my elastic right here, and I'm just gonna sit this to the side. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead on and right sides facing. And on here, you should also see where it says this is the fold line for the lining. This is the lining and interfacing cut line. And then this is the outer fabric cut line. So this pattern is actually suitable if you want to make a pocket for a filter. All right, so you know when you fold your fabric over, it's doubled. So you're already cutting 2. So you only have to actually cut this one time, and it's going to cut 2. So put your pins in there. All right. All right, so we have this. I'm going to take this off, sit these pieces to the side, and then I'm gonna go ahead on and cut my lining. I'm gonna fold this in to that cut line for my lining. Now I have all of my pattern pieces. I have my outer fabric, I have my fusible interfacing, and I have my lining fabric. So what we're going to do is take our fusible interfacing and the side that has the texture on it. So if you feel it, there's like lumps on this side. This side is smooth, okay? So what we're going to do is, of course, open up this outer fabric pattern pieces, and with the this is the right side of the fabric, this is the wrong side of the fabric. We're going to iron the fusible interfacing onto the wrong side of this fabric, okay? So this is the texture side. The texture side is going to kiss the wrong side of the fabric. Texture side is going to kiss the wrong side of the fabric, okay? And then we are going to press it on. Make sure you have water in your steam iron. That's what's going to allow the interfacing to meld. You see how I'm just like pressing it on there? This part, you kind of just press on like this, okay? You're not going to iron as if you were ironing your work clothes. See? Okay? And now we're going to do the other one. Take this. And this is cotton, so it can tolerate the heat. But if your fabric cannot, do a test fabric and see, because you don't want your fabric to burn. So here I have this. I have these two pieces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my two, now they're interfacing, take my two interface pieces, and I am going to pin along here, because this is where I'm going to sew. All right, so I'm pinning along here, and your cotton, your lining is very wrinkled, so I'm actually going to iron these as well. I'm going to press these. All right, so these are iron. And with the right sides facing, it's hard to tell on here, but right sides facing, I'm gonna do the same thing. We're sewing this the same way. So now I have this and this. We're gonna take it to the sewing machine. We're gonna sew all the way along here and all the way along here. So now I'm at the machine, and of course we're gonna sew along here on this part and on the lining. I have my lining sewn and I have my outer fabric sewn. What we're going to do is cut notches along the curve just to release some of the tension in the curvature, because with woven fabrics, they don't stretch, of course, they're woven, as opposed to knits which stretch. So in order for this to nicely curve and keep its curve, we need to cut these notches. Now, don't cut past this seam, because if you do, you're going to cut into your mask. So we don't want any holes on the other side of the pattern. So make your notches, but make them within your seam allowance. And you have a 3/8 inch seam allowance that is allowed on the pattern. And of course, we talk about that in our beginners class. We talk about notches, and we talk about seam allowance, how to maintain your stitch, and all of that. So we're going to cut our notches in our seam allowance. Okay, and you can cut them as triangles, or you can just cut them as snips. The intention is just to release that tension along the curve of the mask. Okay, and I actually personally want to trim my seam allowance down just a bit. So that's up to you. Keep that. I just don't like my seams to be super bulky. So I still have my notches. See? They're just within the seam allowance. All right. So now, this is the outside. Okay. This is the outer. And this is the inner. This is the lining. So the next thing that we're going to do is hem this side of our lining fabric, because this is going to be our pocket. So what I'm going to do is fold it and put a pin here, fold the other side, put a pin, okay, and then sew down this side and down this side. So now we have our, see? Now we have our lining. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the outer fabric, take our lining fabric, and we are going to kiss the right sides together. So seam to seam, we are going to kiss them together like this. And then we're going to pin along the edges. We're going to pin all along the top edge and pin all along the bottom edge, and then sew.